Hello everyone! Welcome to another episode of Therapy Talk, where we talk about all things mental health. First of all, happy holidays to all of you. I think by the time you see this video, it will be probably close to New Year's Day, or maybe on New Year's Day or a little after. So, Happy New Year to all of you. Happy 2020. And I hope you all had a great 2019 and a prosperous 2020 up ahead. So if you have seen some of my videos, and first of all, I hope you will subscribe to my channel and also like this video as well. So if you have seen my videos in the past, you probably already know that I usually would talk about a particular mental health issue, whether it's a mental illness, a mental disorder, or an issue related to mental health. So I've been thinking about what could be a good final video for this year, and I figured I'd do something different. Throughout my career as a psychotherapist, I've been asked many different questions from clients, from family members, from friends, questions about what I do as a therapist. So I figured for my final video, I share with all of you some of these questions that I've been asked through the years and also the answers I provided. So today I'd like to do a Q&A video about the work that I do as a therapist. Alright, alright, here we go. Here comes the first question. This is actually a very good question, and I get this question a lot, especially from people who are just starting to get to know me. So why did I become a therapist? I really enjoy the aspect of working one-on-one with the client. So growing up in the Philippines, where I was born and raised, especially during high school, I just found myself, I found my friends gravitating towards me to talk to me about their problems, trying to get some advice. And I don't know, and I enjoyed listening. For some reason, I just enjoyed being a part of it. And I actually felt honored that they wanted me to be part of, I guess, a solution, trying to ask me for advice. And it just brought me joy and happiness to, when they say, "Thanks, Lloyd, for helping me out," or, I see that their problem was solved, or something like that. I just found myself really enjoying that process and seeing that change, positive change in that person's life. And also growing up, I went to a Catholic school, so community service was very much a part of my upbringing. During this school year, we would do charity work, medical missions, teaching kids, English or math. We would go to the rural areas of my country, and I just enjoyed interacting with the children. I enjoyed interacting with their families, the community members. So again, this aspect of working with people was really something that I really enjoyed growing up. So I enjoyed it so much that I decided to do something initially related with counseling. And then that's the career path that I decided to take, and I decided to start college with a degree in psychology. And it just kind of took off from there. So I became a well, first of all, there are different ways to become a psychotherapist. So my path, I think you can say, is I am a clinical social worker. So just to explain a little bit, there are different kinds of licensures or licenses or trainings that can, if you get that license, you can be a psychotherapist. So there is, in my case, a licensed clinical social worker. Some people will be a licensed mental health counselor, licensed marriage and family therapist. They can be a psychologist as well. So in my case, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. So I went to grad school and graduated with a master's degree in social work. And my primary focus was clinical social work because I really wanted to do that direct work with clients. I could have done research, which actually one of my professors in grad school encouraged me to do, or I could have done something related to administration, but I decided to focus on the direct clinical work with clients. So after I graduated from Fordham University, and I got my first social work job, and to be at least in the state of New York, I don't know about other states, to the first step after you graduate from grad school is that you become a licensed master social worker. So it's the first license above, I guess, graduating with your master's. And once you do that, you have to have clinical work. So you have to accumulate a certain number of clinical hours, meaning you have to work with clients, and then you have to be supervised by someone that's, I think, an LCSW, and you should have a certain number of supervision hours. So after you meet all those requirements, then you can take the test, the licensing exam, which is not easy, by the way. So for all you social workers out there, you know what I'm talking about. And once I got my license, clinical social work license, then that was in 2014. Then that's when I officially started to become a psychotherapist, working for myself. Which means that I don't need a supervisor. Although I do have a supervisor right now, but just because I figured that would be helpful for me, especially when I have some difficult cases. So anyway, that's the journey I went through to become a psychotherapist. So before I went into private practice, I had different kinds of jobs related to the social work field. So when I graduated grad school, my first job full-time was working for an agency that worked with non-custodial fathers. So men who are fathers who don't have custody of their children because they were either in prison or are just getting out of prison. So my title back then was parent advocate, which meant that I would meet with these individuals as they're about to get out of prison. So there's a transitionary period. And then also meet with them after they get out of prison. And I want to make sure that they're connected to services that will help them, with their lives outside of prison, and also specifically to reconnect them with their children. So reestablish that bond, both emotionally and financially. So emotionally, on that aspect, I would help. I ran a parenting class for these fathers, and also financially, I helped them, refer them to job training programs, and things like that. So that was my first job out of grad school. Then after that, I did child therapy at the Bronx District Attorney's Office for an agency working with children who've been exposed to domestic violence. I worked in the Red Hook community of Brooklyn, working with families in poverty. I did child therapy and also family therapy. I've also worked for a community health center, working with adults with mild to moderate depression and anxiety, providing short-term therapy. And then I also worked for an insurance company, doing some case management, visiting patients in hospitals, drug rehab facilities, drug detox facilities, meeting with them in the community. The idea was to make sure that they are connected to services so they don't go back to the hospital or to the drug rehab facilities and things like that. I've done some volunteer work also at the LGBT Community Center in Chelsea, in New York City. Let's see, anything else? That's all I hope I didn't miss anything. But yeah, I'd like to say that I've had quite a diverse set of work in the last few years. So I began my private practice part-time in 2014. That was the year that I passed a licensing exam. So I became a licensed clinical social worker. So back then I was still working full-time for an agency during the day, and then I would go to I rented an office part-time in Herald Square, actually, here in New York City. I would see my private clients at night. It was long hours, but like I said, I really enjoyed working with my clients. And I really thought, even back then, that someday I will do this full-time. So I'm just going to have my own practice. So that finally came into fruition 2 years ago, when I decided to, I guess, take the risk, take the leap of faith, and quit my full-time job, and I started my private practice full-time. So I quit my full-time job January 2017, and then I went full-on sometime around February. It took a while to, build up my caseload to the point that I can support myself financially full-time, using my income full-time with my full-time private practice. But yeah, eventually it came to that point, and I'm really, really blessed and really, really lucky. And now I'm in full-time private practice. So I get clients in quite a few ways. Primarily, I get them online. I'm part of different listservs, and also, I guess, online directories for therapists. The first one I was part of was psychologytoday.com. So it's a website where you can search for different kinds of therapists in your city, specifically here in New York City. Then I'm part of lighthouse.lgbt. So that is a website that has a directory of providers that are identify as LGBTQ. I also get clients through word of mouth, so from either current or past clients. That's always nice to get referrals like that. I also get referrals from other therapists or psychiatrists I've worked with. And some people have found me through my website, lloydfidere.com. Let's see. And also sometimes from insurance companies. So I'm part of Cigna. I'm in network with Cigna and Blue Cross Blue Shield, so I'm part of their directory. And sometimes a client would see me on their list and would contact me, and ask me about being a client. Let's see. Yeah, those are pretty much the places or the source of my referrals. I work with a diverse set of clients, I'll say, from different kinds of backgrounds, different kinds of populations. So when I first started to become a therapist, I mostly worked with kids. So I did child therapy, then I did family therapy. But now in my private practice, I only work with individuals. I used to work with couples, but now I just focus my work with individuals. Most of my clients are members of the LGBTQ community. A lot of them are gay men. But I also work with, heterosexual clients, people of color. So I have a very diverse caseload, I'll say. My therapy style. I'd like to think that my style is, I guess, what I'll call dynamic, which means, at least to me, that means that I'm not the kind of therapist that just sits on my chair in silence while writing notes and kind of thing as a client talks. I'd like to be interactive in a way that is, I guess, helpful and beneficial to the client. I always say to my clients, this is 45 minutes for you. So we talk about anything you want to talk about. But in the process, and if it's appropriate, I will ask questions. I will provide feedback. So it becomes almost like a two-way street. So that's what I mean by dynamic. But at the same time, this is still about the client. So I'll make sure that when I ask a certain question, it's because it will be helpful for the work that I do with the client, and also when I provide feedback. And I find that a lot of clients like that kind of back and forth kind of interaction. So so I guess that's what I'll call my style. This is another question I get a lot. Working directly with clients, so the clinical aspect of the job is not stressful as a whole. I mean, definitely I've had stressful moments. Like, for example, I had a client before who was suicidal or was, has a history of self-harm. So cases like that, internally I would feel stressed out or maybe panicky, but obviously I don't project that or show that to my clients, because I want to make sure I project support and strength for them. Yeah, I mean, in those cases, with all the trainings I've received through the years, it kind of makes it easier to handle cases like that. To be quite honest, the stress of my job really comes from other factors outside of therapy. For example, dealing with insurance companies. I'm sure a lot of you can relate to me, either if you're a fellow provider, a clinician, or a patient, when you call your insurance company and you're transferred from one department to the other, or you try to say your answer and they don't recognize your voice. You have to repeat yourself. That's so frustrating. I mean, just 2 days ago, I was on the phone with an insurance company, and it was just so difficult to get some answers. So that's very, very frustrating and very stressful. Dealing with paperwork, sometimes can be overwhelming, but that's part of the job. That's what I signed up for. That can be stressful as well. But yeah, quite honestly, the stress really is mostly from outside of the therapy work that I do. Like I said, I like working with my clients. So, yeah. I'm asked this question a lot. Is it hard to listen to people's problems every day? I mean, I don't mind. I mean, look, I this is part of my work. I wouldn't be in this line of work if I didn't enjoy doing it. So the listening aspect of my work is something I do every day, and yeah, I really don't mind it. I mean, for sure, there are times where maybe a client would tell me about like a very major, maybe a major problem or a crisis. Maybe it's sometimes hard to listen to because of the details. I remember when I was working with children who've been exposed to domestic violence. So when I would meet with their parents first and I would hear the details of the domestic violence or the abuse, that was kind of hard. But I've been a therapist now for a while, so I've kind of developed, I guess better listening skills that have made my job easier, and also, look, like I said earlier, I enjoy the work I do. I guess what makes it difficult sometimes is, let's say I'm tired, or maybe I'm sleepy, so it's kind of hard to focus sometimes. But hey, I'm only human. It happens. I've never fallen asleep. Yes, I've never done that, and I would never do that. I hope not. That'll be really bad. But yeah, other than that, like I said, I enjoy the work I do. So yeah, I enjoy listening.